worried, so just as a friend, he's worried. Bye-bye. Picture of the turn-of-the-century members in front of the same bar, with the same mural, with the same windows. Lights. These are Tiffany glass windows over here depicting theatrical motifs, and he made this divider to shut off this room from the rest of the hallway, and those panes are actually bottled glass, so those are melted bottles that makes each of those panes. He added all the crown molding, he added all the pillars that you'll see throughout the building, and rearranged the space of the floors to make it more conducive to big groups of people. A celebrated actor. He was what we call a boulevard actor, an actor acting in contemporary plays and romances, as opposed to the father and Edwin Booth, who were classical actors, mostly acted in Shakespeare. Interesting, Edwin Booth's success was in the northern theaters, and John Wilkes Booth's success was in the southern theaters. And of course, they lived among the people that they acted. The first show that broke the record, I think, was a chorus line. So it held that record for many, many years. The gray-haired man is Walter Hampton, who was the most famous Cyrano in the first half of the 20th century. Most famous American Cyrano. Jose Ferrer second was 1623. 3 years later was the second folio. There's a folio here signed by Edwin Booth in the folio. And that's, if you're a scholar and you're writing anything that has to do with 19th century American theater, you need to come to this building to see a lot of that material. Over here, we have a picture of Joseph Jefferson, who is the second, that Edwin Booth increased in size as he performed this moment. But what the reviewer didn't know, that everyone on the stage had long robes, so at that moment, Edwin Booth went up on his toes, and everyone else was directed to dip at their knees. So Stanford White over here. This is Joseph Jefferson. This is John Drew. So all these celebrated people in the club are represented in this drawing. The key here. These pictures here were part of the original pictures that he collected to decorate the club. These pictures were almost completely blackened. That one had a big gash in it. And very recently, because of the grant, became a big fan and started writing. They started corresponding, and they became friends. And the young woman's sister said, "You must stop your friendship with that actress because it's going to destroy your reputation." The young woman's name was Lizzie Borden. So it was okay to kill your mother and your father, but it was not okay to be friends with them. This is the stage that they use pretty much every night for something. Readings, panel discussions. I've seen some very famous people on the stage. It's a small stage, but a lot of famous people have been on the stage. I was here the night they had a 150th birthday party for Sholem 11, and everyone who was still alive, who was connected to Fiddler on the Roof, came and spoke, including his granddaughter, Belle Kaufman, who wrote the book Up and Down Staircase. They were all here talking about it. So Theodore Bickel, who at that point was 85 years old, got up and did original John Singer Sargent portrait. Is Joseph Jefferson as Dr. Pangloss, character from Candide, although the play is not actually called Candide. because he never lived in this part of the house as a house. It wasn't a house that he lived in. He bought it to turn it into a club, and then he lived on the next floor. So this was always a club room. His rooms are upstairs, and we're going to go see his rooms. But he didn't. This wasn't like his house. He bought it for the purpose of turning it into a club. So by the time he lived here, it was already a club. These rooms are already, used for club activities.
So these rooms too, were they
Yeah, I mean, those tiles were put in by Stanford White. Right. That's when they were having preliminary meetings here. And here's the library. Now, at one time, this room actually had the biggest collection of theatrical vases in the country. That was many, many years ago. Right now, the vases here. The importance of the library that has a curator that works here top floor. That was the floor that actually used to be rooms. Interesting, because they're all young actresses from the turn of the century, but if you look at the names, they're all very familiar because they're the character actors that you remember from Hollywood in the 30s and the 40s. Laura Hope Cruz, who's a young actress here, was Aunt Pittypat in Gone with the Wind. Billy Burks represented here. She was Florence Ziegfeld's wife, and you might know her as Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, in The Wizard of Oz. I think Ethel Barrymore is here. A number of famous. Here's Ellen Terry. So these were. All right, so take your last shot and we'll go off. If you got. All right, come join me. The last 2 years of his life, he lived in these rooms. There was a corridor through those curtains that had the shower and bath, and a closet. And then the other side, where we now use as offices, were other rooms that he was able to use. And if he had people staying over, guests, they would stay there. So he had the whole floor. And they'd become offices. But that was living space as well. This was his private area. And it's pretty much the way he designed it, the way he furnished it, and it has not changed. The membership decided to leave it the way it was the night he died. His slippers are still on the floor exactly where he left them the night he died, in that bed, and they have not been changed. He arranged the room so the first thing he saw when he woke up.
At that point,
I mean, when the club first opened, he was healthy enough, but over the last 3 years, it deteriorated. I think he was still acting when the club opened, and then the last year and a half, I think he couldn't. Lost the baby, and it triggered some sort of reaction, so that became a very challenging and difficult marriage, and not a happy, pleasant marriage. So we kind of call that the wall of shame. Because those people who gave him all the heartache of his life were those two people. On the dresser here, these are his grandchildren, the daughter's children. And that's his mother, the woman who ran away to America with his father, Junius Brutus Booth. That's his mother. I think all of them, his mother, his two wives were all named Mary. And then that is a writer whose name I forget, but a friend. And that's Salvini, the Italian actor, who was also a friend. On the bookcase there, we see a skull, and that indeed was one of the skulls that he used in his performance as Hamlet. And it's actually signed by Booth. And the story goes that that skull was given to the father, who's in that colored tintype up there, Junius Brutus, by a young man out west when he was touring, that he had seen him and he knew the way it was. And whatever state it is, this is the way it is. It's something, how many things are like that? You know? Even the smell, yeah. Even the smell is the same. So, so I think there's something real exciting about just knowing that it has been.
I always see them climb out of the
Yeah,
smoke to
they're all from Shakespeare.
Oh, okay.
There's one over here over his bed as well. But, I'm not sure from which place. The story goes the night he died, there was a thunderstorm with lightning, and they were all here, the doctor, the son-in-law, the daughter, were all here, and there was thunder, and all the lights flickered and went out. And the daughter said, "Oh, don't let Papa die in the dark." And the lights came back on, and he was gone. And then the doctor waved a white handkerchief out to the crowd, and they all knew that he was gone. The chair over there is one of his Hamlet chairs. So that's a chair that was once on stage in some illustrious theater, Edwin Booth sitting in it playing Hamlet and saying those famous lines. And he had a picture of Shakespeare near his bed. Images of Shakespeare. Here's another skull. Those names that are had to use for skulls. Yeah, that's 2036. Exactly. That's not the 30 spot. Here is a time capsule that was at Booth's Theater from 1868 when it opened to 1884 when it no longer was theater. They changed it into a department store, so they removed it. That also happened,